Okay, we're in Cambridge, it's the Science Festival, so I thought we'd talk about these guys. Cambridge starts off as a Roman town 2,000 years ago. There's a settlement up where Shire Hall is up on Castle Hill, and the whole landscape is a Roman one. So Histon Road, Huntingdon Road, Mill Road, these are all Roman roads. There's farms all around here. My colleagues have just finished digging up a small Roman villa up at Eddington in northwest Cambridge. So that they're absolutely everywhere in this landscape. And where you find Romans, you find dead Romans. I should explain what my colleagues are doing here. This is a quarry just outside Erith, just up on the fen edge here. And most of the archaeology that's done in this country is actually not done academically, it's done as part of the construction industry, which is where we come in. Where work to disturb the ground is about to go on, so building houses, roads, pipelines, or quarrying in this case, they'll be checked for archaeology. If there's anything of significance there, planning conditions will be put on requiring an archaeological dig to get done. And that's what's going on here. This is an unusual site for a Roman cemetery. They're fairly common. There's a couple of dozen Roman cemeteries known around Cambridge. Some of you at the front, though, might have spotted what's a bit exceptional about this particular one. Anyone? Anyone? Would you like a hint?
Decapitation.
Always good. We have decapitations on this site. Decapitation by itself is not unusual in Roman cemeteries. They account for about 2 or 3% of all the bodies that have been found in Britain. There's a number of different theories. I'll come to some of the theories about what's going on here. What's going on? Here we go, that one there. This is the form. They're actually quite formulaic when you discover these burials. You have the body laid out normally fairly straight out, and you'll find the head down at the feet of the body here. These turn up around about the 3rd century or thereabouts, so about 200 years after the Romans first arrived. We suddenly get this massive spike in decapitations and various other strange forms of burial going on as well. You might have noticed in the papers just before Christmas, there's a big media splash about deviant burials going on over in Suffolk. That's the language we used to use, and we've done until we realised actually the word deviant means something rather different to people, especially the readers of the Daily Mail. So we've changed the language about these. We now refer to this much more scientifically as a cervical extension displacement. It just means its head's in the wrong place. What is unusual about this cemetery, the burials themselves are fairly normal. What we have out here, which makes this one exceptional, however, is we have lots of them, and I mean lots. We have one of the largest concentrations of these in Britain. So the question is, what on earth is going on to make these? And what is particularly peculiar is, apart from the obvious problem, these are utterly normal burials in Roman terms. Some of them around Britain will be laid out in a coffin, which you get occasionally. You'll be able to see some of these. We have little pots that go into the graves in a fairly standard location. They're an offering to the dead when they're buried. All completely normal. So we're trying to understand what's going on here. Now, there's a couple of theories that go on about what these all mean and so on. The one that you'll hear most often is it's some kind of ritual. Now, it's a bit like when you go to the doctor and they don't know what's wrong, but they feel like they've got to say something like get more exercise and cut down smoking. Well, archaeologists say ritual instead when we don't know what's going on. But we're trying a different hypothesis at the moment, which I'm getting some flack on, I'll confess. So this may not bear fruit in the next couple of months. Here's some of the pots that I just showed you there. I mentioned these start in the 3rd century. Now, the 3rd century in the middle is not a good time for the Roman Empire. They have barbarians flooding in from north of the border. We have a major invasion coming out of Persia. The imperial system starts breaking down. They go through something like 26 emperors in 50 years. There's one year they go through 5 emperors. So everything is breaking down. And at this time, Britain and France break away twice to form their own empire. And then they get invaded and they get recaptured a couple of times as well. So in Britain, we're seeing this great instability. At the same time as all of this is going on, we've got a major economic collapse, the money's going out, we're getting peasant revolt. It's not a good time. And we think what's going on here is the people we're seeing decapitated are the people that are forced to choose sides and choose wrong. That's what we think is going on anyway. Proving that is where the science starts coming in. Amongst the pots we get, we've got this really awful little thing over here which is really roughed up, but you might, if you squeeze, just be able to see on the neck of the pot, there's a face. Now face pots almost invariably go with the military, and if you're going to have an insurrection, the military are the people that are going to be forced to choose sides one way or the other. They're the ones most likely to get caught up in any reprisals as well. And we know in the Roman laws at this time, there are a whole lot of new laws brought in that are capital offences, including military treason, sedition, swapping sides for the enemy, and so on. Oops, not that one yet, haven't got to that bit of the talk yet. Come on, back you come. So we think we've got military burials here, and the families of military officials. We also know in Roman law that the military actually gets off lightly when it comes to executing somebody. They simply get beheaded. If you're not so lucky, the Roman system then says, well, you've got a couple of choices. You can have crucifixion, you can be burnt alive, or you can be torn apart by wild beasts. So in the scheme of things, this is a high-class death. Now, of course, this is all theory at the moment, and we're trying to find ways to prove this. And this is where the science gets in, and this is where the revolution in archaeology is going at the moment. It is now feasible to test an entire cemetery for ancient DNA, to test for the family relationships between bodies, to look at the sort of areas of Europe that they're coming from. And we'll match this up with some other science as well. We'll be looking at the isotopes. So the food that you eat, the water that you drink, it's got a chemical signature, an isotopic signature. It'll go into your bones and be permanent with this. We can see whereabouts in Europe you came from in the first place. If we're seeing a whole group of people here that have obviously moved around the empire that don't have a genetic signature that matches the local tribes here, well, we're probably looking at senior members of society going around here. And so it's really good evidence that that's an explanation for these sorts of decapitations we're seeing right across Britain at this time. The genetics is an amazing transformation at the moment. We are having major eruptions inside our business of archaeology as this great tides of new information are coming through. We've now discovered invasions we had no clue existed or were always very contentious, simply because of what is possible now with the genetics. This wasn't possible 5 years ago, so it's a very exciting time to be an archaeologist. Now, I can ramble more about decapitated bodies if you want, but Craig did force me to promise to talk about being LGBT in archaeology. Fortunately for him, he picked exactly the wrong person. Because I came out as an archaeologist decades after I came out as a gay man. I've only been an archaeologist for 5 years, he said. I trained as a mathematician, I've got a doctorate in history, I've had careers in communication and consulting and pharmaceuticals before I came out as an archaeologist. So I don't have a lot of personal experience of what it's like to grow up in the field. So I went and talked to my colleagues. I have worked with gay archaeologists and lesbian archaeologists and trans archaeologists. They're all out there. I've worked with numerous couples as well. And just to get their perspective and their experience. And the collective response was, yeah. They just said, why are you asking this question? It's such a non-issue. Archaeology is a very strange profession. You do need to be able to be a researcher, but also be able to move 2 ton of dirt a day. If you can, and the pay is appalling. So if you can put up with all that, we tend to be a very strange, tolerant sort of profession as well. We attract lots of school kids come and volunteer, we get lots of retirees come in. The Army has just won Archaeologist of the Year, and they use archaeology to help rehabilitate wounded soldiers and soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder, okay? So we are a very therapeutic environment. I've worked with lots of, well, there's something really good about digging up dead warriors if you're a living one. Been fun. I have certainly worked with many, like I said, LGBT people. There are certainly lots of archaeologists who actually met their partners through being archaeologists as well. Archaeologists are notorious for dating one another and marrying one another. It hasn't happened to me yet. So we're very broad church. We're certainly not a perfect profession in any case. We've had our Me Too moment in the last couple of years, and the whole profession is taking really big efforts. Archaeology is more than 50% women. We do work in the construction industry, and that causes some issues. Those are our issues. Talking to my colleagues, being gay, lesbian, trans, whatever, that's not an issue. They're open, they're out. It's family, like you said before. Archaeology really is family. So thank goodness for us. I mean, we're not in campaigning mode any longer, and that allows us to get on with, like you said earlier on, the important work of digging up dead Romans. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.